Hello everybody, my name is Anju, Balakrishnan. I'm legal intern of LEXIS and Company, and today I'm here to talk about the tort of nuisance. So before I begin with my topic, welcome back to our channel. If it's your first time visiting our channel, please press the like and subscribe button in order to get more law-related videos in the upcoming days. So today I'm going to talk about tort of nuisance, as I mentioned. So let's start with what is nuisance. This term is something that we might have heard quite a few times in our day-to-day lives. It can be something that our friends teasingly call us. They might teasingly say that, oh my god, you're such a nuisance. However, when it comes to the legal definition, the term nuisance comes from the French word nuire. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Which means to damage, hurt, or to irritate. When we tell it between our friends, it's basically an irritation or an annoyance, or it's just basically something we used to term. We used to tease the person. However, the main definition is to damage, hurt, or to irritate. Nuisance is basically to hurt or to violate a person's right to unrestricted enjoyment of his property that occurs as a result of another person's unlawful use. When you use another person's property unlawfully, restricting their right to enjoy their property completely without any sort of restrictions, then it becomes a nuisance. According to Stephen, a nuisance is anything done to the harm or the inconvenience of other tenements or properties that do not constitute trespass. So there are two elements of nuisance. It's basically that there must be a wrongful act, which is defined as any action taken with the aim of infringing other person's basic rights. So basically, any wrongful act that infringes another person's right must be present in order to constitute nuisance. The next one is that harm, losses, or inconvenience must be of a significant kind that has to be in order to be considered substantial material to claim for the claim by the loss. Basically, when you do a wrongful act that infringes your right, the harm or the loss or the inconvenience or the damage caused must be huge enough to be considered substantial for you to claim damages under the law. It should be huge enough. There are two kinds of nuisances: public nuisance as well as private nuisance. Public nuisance basically is affecting the society and the people living in the society or some considerable proportion of the society by affecting the rights of the people of the society. Basically, it's the whole society, the whole place in wars, not one particular person. That is what is public nuisance against public. And the acts which seriously affects or interferes with the health, safety, or comfort of the general public is known as public nuisance. In some cases, an individual may have the private right of action against a public nuisance if it is proved that they have suffered personal damages to a greater extent than the rest of the public. If you can prove that your damage that has occurred to you is greater than the damage occurred to the whole rest of the public, then you can prove that you have the private right of action. The next thing that has to be proved that it was a direct injury rather than a resultant harm. The third one is that it has to be demonstrated that the injury has a significant impact. So basically, in order to prove, for an individual to prove the private right of action against public nuisance, you have to prove that you have suffered a greater damage than that the public has suffered. And the damage was not suffered due to a result of the nuisance against public, but it was a direct harm towards you and the public suffered due to that direct injury. Third one was that it must be demonstrated that this injury was caused a significant impact. Private nuisance basically is when a person interferes with another person's right or use or enjoyment of his property. It basically means causing harm to the property or the owner of the property by physically harming his property and interfering with his enjoyment. Unlike public nuisance, private nuisance jeopardizes an individual's use or enjoyment of property and not a public as a whole. It's basically directed to one person. And there are elements that has to be proved in order to prove private nuisance. It has to be proved that this interference was done irrationally or illegally. Basically, it must be proved that it is intended that the conduct was not done. the act is not something that can be lawfully justifiable or is reasonable, or there's no way a reasonable person would do the act. It must be proved that this particular interference was done irrationally and cannot be reasoned with or is illegal. The next element that has to be proved when it comes to private nuisance is that such an interference must be with relationship with a property or bodily harm. Basically, it must be with the use or the enjoyment of the land or with some sorts of rights over the property. Basically, it should harm the property or cause bodily harm. The third one is that in order to prove private nuisance, there must be visible harm to the property or interference with the use of the property. So basically, you have to prove that the interference was irrational or illegal. Such an interference was done against the use or enjoyment of the property or in relationship with the property or bodily harm, and this harm is quite visible. So basically, nuisance is prevalent in everybody's day-to-day lives, and this particular whole notion of nuisance was taken from the English laws and English doctrines and common law rulings along with our own precedents. So the development of nuisance in the subject of law is basically quite vast, and it's developing in a quite fast manner, it's developing quite quickly, and this particular law or this particular tort ensures that justice and is provided, and the parties or the societies as a whole is living in a manner. There is no sort of nuisance or there's no sort of interference in their enjoyment in enjoying their private rights or in enjoying their personal rights. So basically, this is what nuisance is. I hope that you can understand what the tort of nuisance is, what are the different kinds of nuisance, what are the elements needed in order to prove nuisance. If you like the video, please press the like and subscribe button. Thank you for visiting our channel. Thank you for your time and understanding. I hope that you have a wonderful day ahead. Thank you once again.